Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbach, welcoming everyone here to our flagship station at the Agudas Yisrael Beis Zev of Fairways Lakewood. And as always, we start with appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for giving us the platform to teach Torah in 187 countries, to Kol HaLashon for its amazing dissemination of Torah, also now on YouTube and Torah Communications Network and Facebook, and of course here with you and on Zoom. Thank you all for joining us. Tonight we have an important sponsor for the Gesund and for good news and good health for Tova Sarah Bas Bela Rezel, that she should be healthy, and if there's anything that needs to be bettered, she should have Refuah Shalema B'Seich Shachar Yisrael. I'd also like to sponsor the share privately from myself, the Refuah Shalema for our Chaver Adaf, Aaron Ben Sarah, that he should have a successful heart procedure tomorrow. He should breathe easy, get home from the hospital with Gesund and Refuah Shalema B'Seich Shachar Yisrael from Hashem. And we learn also for Avigdor Aryeh Ben Rivka that he too should have a Refuah Shalema from Hashem B'Seich Shachar Yisrael. If you would like to sponsor next week's share, which will probably be broadcast from up in the Catskills, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. So this parsha is to teach us to avoid one of the greatest dangers to our lives. When I say lives, I'm talking about life in this world and life in the next world. The only way that a person can succeed at avoiding the quicksand of machlokes, and I really feel that quicksand is a very good analogy. I'll talk more about that maybe later. Avoid the quicksand of machlokes is forewarned is forearmed. As I've said many times, Rashi himself tells us that Korach was a pikeach. He was an extremely intelligent person, and he was a great man. All the Leviim chose him to be one of the people that carried the Aron, the most coveted job of all of the Leviim. And if Korach could fall into such a mess, then what chance do average people like me and you have? And the answer is we have Parshas Korach. And therefore, the discipline, the foresight that we gain from studying Parshas Korach year after year carefully is the hope that we and our families should be spared from the ruination of fighting, of feuds, of being embroiled in arguments. So it says, Vayikach Korach. Korach took something. What did he take? We know he came with a claim against Moshe, against Aaron. But what did he take? So Amarei Shlokish, Shelokach Mekach Ra La'atzmai. He took bad merchandise for himself. So first of all, what was the bad merchandise? And what does it mean La'atzmai? Obviously, if he bought a Mekach Ra, he didn't buy it for someone else, he bought it for himself. So what does it mean Shelokach Mekach Ra La'atzmai? So the Yalkut HaGershuni, and I looked up in my notes, and I see that I quoted this Yalkut Gershuni 18 years ago. So it's, even for my subscribers, it's high time for a review. The Yalkut Gershuni says that Korach was very smart. So, mora l'shtus zeh. What caused him to get involved in this shtus? Einoi hit'asai. He was fooled by his eye. What happened? Rosh Shmuel yatsa mimenu. He saw b'nevuah that Shmuel will descend from him. Sheshakol k'Moshe v'Aaron, who is equal to Moshe and Aaron. Now, if Shmuel, he saw nevuah, if he and his family are going to be swallowed up alive, then how could Shmuel come from him? It must be that not only will he live, but he's chashiv that he's going to have somebody like Shmuel. Now, what does it mean he was tricked? He made a mistake. So the simple meaning of that he made a mistake is that he didn't realize that his children would do tshuva, they would be caught on a ledge and not go down to Gehenna, and Shmuel came from his children. That was his mistake. He didn't foresee that. But the Yalkut Gershuni says something else. He was misled because he thought that if he's not righteous and he doesn't have a good taina, how could he merit having a Shmuel? Shmuel, it says Moshe v'Aaron b'koyna v'Shmuel b'kari Shmai. Shmuel an equal to Moshe and Aaron. How could it be? It must be that his claims are righteous. What the mistake he made was it was to the contrary. The reason why he was Zeicha to Shmuel is because generations upon generations, through the millennia, will learn from what happened to Korach not to be Bali Machlokes. The Kiddush Hashem that was made from his punishment, and the lessons throughout the ages that people will run from Machlokes and train their children not to get involved in fights, that schus that Korach had enabled him to have a Shmuel. And that's not a foreign concept. We have two leaders that the Messiah, in the chain of Messiah, we have them in Pirkei Avos, Shmaya and Naphtali. Shmaya and Naphtali were the leaders of Klal Yisrael. They were Gerim. They were descendants of the wicked king Sancherib. So it says, Mibnei Bonav Shel Sancherib Lamdu Torah B'Rabbim. And the Mefarshim say, because through Sancherib there was such a Kiddush Hashem, and the world saw the power of Hashem, that's how he merited having Shmai and Naphtali. And the same thing is true, it says, Mibnei Bonav Shel Haman Lamdu Torah B'Bnei Brak. Some say that Rameir descended from Haman. Mibnei Bonav Shel Haman. It's controversial, it's a question. But it says Mibnei Bonav Shel Haman Lamdu Torah B'Bnei Brak. Why? Because in the schus that Gedolah Asaras HaTabas, when Achashverosh removed the ring and gave it to Haman, and Klal Yisrael did more tshuva than 48 Nevi'im and 7 Nevi'os, in that schus, so Korach made a mistake. He said, my cause must be righteous, otherwise how could I have a Shmuel? That's not what it was. And that's the meaning of Vayikach Mekach Ra La'atzmai. For himself it was a bad deal. He died, he went down to Sheol. For everybody else, we got a benefit from it, because we learned the problems of Machlokes, a tremendous deterrent not to be involved in Machlokes. Very powerful pshat. The Eitzes HaTorah says another pshat. The Eitzes HaTorah says that the mekach rala atzmai, what does a person purchase? Ki yikach ish isha, a man purchases a wife. Korach made a big mistake. It was his ruination. Vayikach Korach mekach rala atzmai, you take to yourself your wife, ishtekigufay. Oh, that was a mistake. Chazal say about the wife of Korach, Iveles biyoda tehersena. The foolish woman with her hand destroys her home. And that's what she did. A very powerful thing. It says that she said to Korach, this Moshe, he's something. He makes you as a Levi shave, and not just shave, but your payas, your beard. He make a fool out of you. She really stoked the fire. Women have to know that there's a power that they have. Oin ben Peles is to the contrary. He had a wife that saved his life. Chachmas noshim bonsa boisa. The wisdom of a woman builds her home. That's the power of a good wife. That's what it says. Zocha nasa lo yezer. If he's merits, she becomes his helper. Lo zacha kenegdai. If she doesn't, she opposes him and brings him down. So the mekach rala atzmai was also the wife that he took that brought him down. Chazal tell us that Korach pikeach haya. He was a pikeach, but he wasn't a chacham. He was clever. He would have made a great chess player, but he wasn't a chacham. A chacham would not get involved in machlokes at all. A pikeach knows how to do the battle. But a chacham who is royas hanoilad, a chacham or royas hanoilad, would run for machlokes. From the Sefer HaZechira, we know that there are certain things that have great toxicity, unusual toxicity. I'm going to tell you 3 things from the Sefer HaZechira. I think the Shalah brings it down as well. Chilul Hashem doicha meya tfilas. Desecrating Hashem pushes away 100 prayers. If you're in a place where Goyim come with wheelchair needs, and you park in a wheelchair spot to run out to Mincha, you have to know you're risking making a Chilul Hashem which pushes away 100 Minchas. I say that because it could be that there are wheelchair spots in developments where there aren't people that have wheelchair needs and there's no goyim around, so that would be different. But, you go to a post office and you pull into the wheelchair spot, and then a guy comes and sees, it makes a tremendous Chilul Hashem. There's so many examples of Chilul Hashem. People drive these days. There's menschlichkeit when you drive. You get to the stop sign second, you wait till the person, in a 4-way stop, you wait till the person who got there first, you wait. If you don't wait because, listen, I'm more important, you're risking creating a big Chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem doicha meya tfilas. One Chilul Hashem pushes away 100 tfilas. The next one is very frightening. Nivel peh doicha meya brachas. One vulgar speech could push away 100 blessings. Remember, Rav Pam used to say, the Gemara in Shabbos says, Bachuri Yisrael die for nivel peh. Nivel peh pushes away 100 blessings. Here's another one. Lashon hara doicha meya tshuvas. person worked on tshuva and changing, one lashon hara could wreck 100 tshuvas. And then we have in our subject, Machloikis dayacha meya parnasses. Fighting pushes away 100 livelihoods. Want to know why we have a financial crisis? This in a nutshell could explain the financial crisis, the tuition crisis. Machloikis achas dayacha meya parnasses. Now I want to tell you the mechanics of this. What does Machloikis have to do with Parnasa? The Gemara says in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Yud, Kol hamarzik b'machloikis is over b'lav, l'siyah k'karech v'cha'adasai, Ravasi amar roi litztareya. Person that's Isaac in machloikis and fuels a fight, doesn't let it go. No, we gotta take care of this. No, let's not forget about it. Is worthy to be punished with leprosy. Now, the Chavetz Chaim says today, when we don't have biblical leprosy, instead, many times it's switched with poverty, because both a Mitzayir is chashiv kameis and an ani is chashiv kameis. So is it any wonder that Machloikis could affect 100 parnasses? We were Zeicha, those that went to the Adirei Torah gathering, we were Zeicha to hear from a real great Torah personality who flew in already over 90 from Eretz Yisrael in middle of Shiva for his son to speak to us. I was very moved by his clear, passionate talk. Rameir Tzvi Bergman was the son-in-law of Rav Shach. He asked the following question. Not at the Adirei Torah. This is something that I know from him. It says, Ma roya kairach l'shtus zeh. So he said, why do you refer to it as shtus? He had nevuah. He had ruach HaKodesh. Shmuel did come from it. How can you call that a shtus? So he said the shtus was that he didn't think that Moshe Rabbeinu saw the same nevuah. Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest Navi of all time. If he saw it, he should have thought that Moshe Rabbeinu saw that too. And that didn't stop Moshe Rabbeinu from telling him, watch out. Watch out. Tyrus, if it's not brought properly, kills. It was a shtus that he didn't realize that Moshe Rabbeinu saw, whatever he saw, Moshe Rabbeinu surely saw. It's such a powerful insight. And there's a tremendous lesson from this. And that's why I say, you really need beforehand to train yourself how dangerous Machloikis is. Because once you're in it, you have negias, and it's impossible to see straight. Korach didn't see straight. Another example of this is that Moshe Rabbeinu said, Boiker v'yoda Hashem es asher loi. In the morning, Hashem will make known who is his. Rashi discusses all kinds of reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to wait till the morning. He wanted to give them a chance. Says tzaddikim that even if you see them do an aveira, so when they go to sleep, they're going to make a cheshbon nefesh, they're going to do tshuva. But the Maram Shiv said that every morning the mun fell according to a person's righteousness. So Moshe Rabbeinu said in the morning they'll see that Korach's man is going to fall far from his house. These 250 great people, the man will fall far from the house, so they'll see that they're wicked. It'll stop them. So they asked Rav Steinman, So then why didn't Korach learn the lesson? It says Korach was a pikeach. When he saw that the next morning he had to put on his Nikes and take a hike, he should have saw that there's something wrong. Something wrong with the cheshbainis. What Rav Steinman answers is very frightening. Rav Steinman said, Korach said, oh, the man fell far away. Hashem is not pleased. I should be fighting stronger. I should be gathering even a bigger crowd against this injustice. What Rav Steinman is saying is that when a person is embroiled in machlokes, then it's too late. And that's why I compared it to quicksand. Nobody wants to get near quicksand, because once you're in it, you're going down. Going down. And when I made this mashal, I thought to myself, if a person has to be embroiled in machlokes, let's say a diamond fell into the quicksand. So you got to get the diamond. It's a 4-carat diamond. It's $13,000. You make sure that you have somebody holding your other hand. You're holding on to an iron thing. And if somebody has to be involved in machlokes, they better have a gadol advising them every step of the way. Because otherwise you're going down. Going down in quicksand. You know, in practice, when I raised my children, so we had one child that was very allergic to a bee bite. For a while we had an EpiPen to make sure that it's very dangerous. So we told our children that they should know that they're very allergic to machlokes. Machlokes is chelek maves, a portion of death. Or like Rav Level Katz says in Ol Aryeh, it starts with a mem and ends with a suf. It's mace. It's death. And if you know that, then people come and say, you know, you got to get involved. You know, maybe, but my parents taught me that we're very allergic to machlokes. Yes. Once, imagine, he saw the man fall away and he interpreted it the wrong way. Now, a person should certainly beware of not becoming a Baal Machlokes. A Baal Machlokes is someone who doesn't even have anything in it for him. But he just gets involved in the fight. The Mincha Blula, which is already an ancient, relatively, ancient Pirish on Chumash, the Pashtus of Chumash. And the Chidush Harim say the same thing. It tells us there were 250 Nesiyei, the Kriyei Moyed, Anshe Shem. It doesn't tell us their names. Why does it tell us Dasan and Aviram's names? So both the Mincha Blula and the Chidush Harim say, you know why? Because they weren't Levium and they weren't Bechayrim. The whole fight didn't apply to them. They just got involved because of hate. They just got involved because of machlokes. He says, that's a mitzvah to be mefarsim their gnus. That's really terrible. And actually, that's what the great woman, Rebbetzin Ein Ben Peles, told her husband. She said, what's in it for you? If Moshe wins, he's the king. If Korach wins, he's the king. What's in it for you? Very important thing to ask yourself. Why am I getting involved in this? So now let's talk a little tachlis. Very important share this year. Let's talk a little tachlis. What should a person do if they get embroiled in a machlokes. Somebody starts fighting with them. Who starts fighting with them? And, according to your view, they're 100% wrong. What should you do? So we have recorded that this happened to a Choshev Yid in Yerushalayim, and he went to Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and he asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach how to proceed. The great Pesach Hadar, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he asked, how should I proceed? So the first thing Reb Shlomo Zalman told him is that you should understand that a gibor is not somebody that fights wisely. A gibor is somebody that's koivishis yitzra. Ezel gibor a koivishis yitzra. So your gevura in this situation is how you achieve not reacting. That's your gevura. And he says the way fights work is if you're going to answer back with takifas, the other side is going to answer even with more takifas, and then you're going to answer. And then you have a explosion. He says if you don't answer, a lot of times the matter gets forgotten. And he said that he heard from a Gadol Echad. I don't know who the Gadol Echad is, but if Reb Shlomo Zalman calls somebody a Gadol Echad, so then you know he's not an ordinary person. He said that he heard from a Gadol Echad that David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Perek Mem Zayin, Pasuk Lamed Ches, Va'ani kecheresh lo eshma, uche'ileim lo yiftach piv. I am like a deaf person who doesn't hear, and a mute that doesn't open his mouth. So this Gadol asked that it should say Va'ani kecheresh lo eshma uke'ilan lo yiftach pi, not piv. Talking about yourself. So ani kecheresh lo eshma uke'ilan lo yiftach piv. So he says it means as follows: that in a dispute, if I am like a deaf person that doesn't hear, then uche'ilam lo yiftach piv, the other side, like a mute, won't open his mouth. That's the meaning of the pasuk. Now I want to add that we know that there are people that ensure that the world should continue. Like we have kruvim on top of the Aron. The kruvim are like a young boy and a young girl. So in the holiest place on earth, we have children on top of the Torah in the Aron, the Luchas, to represent that Eina Olam Miskayim Ela B'Shvil Hevel Tinoike Shel Beis Rab. The world survives because of the pure Torah of school children. That's true. And we know that Torah, people that learn Torah are bonoyach, are the builders of the world. But then there are people that on their shoulders the whole world is supported. The pasuk says, Tole Eretz al Blima. The world is supported on nothingness. Because if you look in a telescope, you'll see that in the air stands the globe. There's no pedestal. There's no support. But there is a support. Because the Gemara says, Eina oila miskayim ela b'misha boilim piv b'shas meriva. The world is supported by people who shut their mouths in a time of anger, in time of dispute. It's an amazing thing. You look in the telescope, it seems to be that the world is standing there in midair. But Toila Eretz al Blima, boilim. The world is supported by a person who shuts their mouth in a time of fighting. So we have to know that when there's a fight and a person has the heroics and the strength not to react in kind, it's a moment of greatness. It says, Kol matzel nefesh achas b'Yisrael ki'ilu matzel olam malei. And we know it's a tremendous thing. You save a life. The same way, to support the whole world is a person who's quiet in a time of machlokes. You have to know this before. Once you're in the quicksand, it's too late. You have to know it before. I want to say that the Avud Raham says that we daven for this 3 times a day. The Avud Raham says that in Alikai Netzar, when we say V'lim kalalai nafshi sidain, that those that curse me, my soul should be silent. We're asking to have that power, that strength of character, not to respond in kind. We daven for that 3 times a day. L'kalai nafshi sidam. That's how the Avud Raham learns the Pashup Pshat in this tefillah. It says, Ma'aran mahu ki salinu alav. Who is Aaron that you should have a problem with him? You should complain against him. You know, I remember in response to the Time magazine, it really doesn't deserve any mention on this holy shir. Time magazine used to have a cover, a man of the century. So I was asked when we were closing the last century if I could write an article about our man of the century. And while I wrote a whole bunch of disclaimers, how could I know who the man of the century is? But at the time I wrote that a good suggestion for man of the century would be the Chofetz Chaim. And then I said there's so many, other people, whether it's Chazon Ish, whether it's Rav Moshe, And I said at the time, when I'm doing it, I said, I don't even know the giants of the beginning of the century. And one of those giants was Rav Meir Arik. Rav Meir Arik, the Rachas Chus Yagan Aleinu, was a giant in the beginning of the 20th century. I even wrote in the article a suggestion for man of the millennia. My man of the millennia was Rashi. And I followed it up with the Rambam. At the time I wrote also all kinds of things. Askin of the century, so I suggested Rav Moshe Scherer. And it was an interesting article. You probably could find it online somewhere. But anyway, Rav Meir Arik, I mentioned this because I want to share with you something from this gewaldige Gaon, Rav Meir Arik. He says that normally you could recognize, Chazal tell us you could recognize a person's character in 3 ways. Bekisai, bekaisai, or bekasai. How he spends his money, how he handles his drink, and how he is when he gets angry. I remember we had in Staten Island, wonderful chaver of mine, Rav Yoel Schoenfeld, he should be gesund. He used to joke, today it's bekisai, bekaisai, bekasai, or bekarpulai. How he behaves with his carpool. But anyway, Rav Meir Arik said when it came to Aaron, you couldn't tell bekaisai by his drink because he couldn't drink. He had to do the avodah. Avodah zas b'shtsuya yayin. Because Bekisai, there was no money because everybody got the mun. There was no spending money in the midbar. So what's left? Bekasai. So Rabbi Arich said that Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Va'aron ma'u." Think about what is Aaron like. Ki salinu alav when you complain against him. Do you ever hear him get angry? That's the way Rabbi Arich learned. Anger is one of the things that leads to fighting. The Miller used to say that kas is the same letters as eches, which means poison. It's a poison. We know when a person gets angry, it says, don't try to reason with a person when they're angry because his brain is in park. So a person gets angry, it causes all kinds of dreadful things. That's why you know who a person is by how they deal with their anger. I want to share with you a fundamental thing that I saw from the great Rav Elia Lapian. They asked Rav Elia Lapian, "Bameh harachta yomim?" In what merit did you live long? He lived into his 90s. Bameh harachta yomim. They used to ask this in the Gemara Megillah Tanis. Bameh harachta yomim. So one said, I never showed that I mind in my home. I never got upset in my house. That means even if he should have gotten upset, he didn't. Another one said, I never went to sleep in the night with a bad feeling against someone else. Another one said, Vatrin b'mamayni. You see, I wasn't so exacting with my money. Another one said, Ma'aver al midaisa, I looked away from demanding what's my due. They asked Ramoshe b'me'arachta. Ramoshe said, Man ganz leben hab ich keinmal nit getan weit zu a Mensch. My whole life I never caused another person pain. They asked Reb Yaakov and he said, I never told a lie. And I tried not to hurt anybody's feelings. They asked Rav Shach. He said, I always benched from a bencher. So Rav Bergman said by the Adirei Torah, he said, an eitzah for those girls that are not finding their shidduch, that they should always bench from a bencher. Said it over from his shver, from Rav Shach. How did Rav Lapian answer this question? I think it's very, very instructive, very fundamental. He said, Miyoim omdi al dati. From the time that I had mature reasoning, loy ka'asti al shum adam v'loy al shum davar. I was never angry at any person or about anything. Anger, the Rambam says this is something that we have to go all the way to the other extreme. It says he attributes his long life to not getting angry. Now that's something to emulate. You know, it says that there are many treatments in Gehenim. Kol hakayis kol mine Gehenim sholten by. Now, I don't want to belabor this because my Talmidim of years have heard this from me more than once, but there's always new Talmidim in 187 countries. There's new Talmidim. On YouTube, there's new Talmidim. By the way, somebody out there, if you want to sponsor next week's share, 718-916-3100. That's 718-916-3100. rmmwsi@aol.com. There's a Karen Ira in Masechtas Tanis. The Karen Ira says that there is a problem on the one hand, we need our neshama to continue to live. If our neshama leaves Rahman al-Tzlan, we die. The problem is the neshama is homesick. Neshama is homesick. The neshama is a chelik elikam mal. It's a sliver of God. And it's homesick for the Kisei HaKavod. That's a problem because we want the neshama to stay. So the Keren Iris says, how do we achieve that? He says, well, we achieve it by making our body as heavenly-like as possible. Boy goes away to yeshiva. He's very homesick. So the mother comes and brings some stuff from the house, a little rug from the house, brings his food from the house to make him feel a little bit more at home. So if you want the neshama to stay, we want the neshama to stay, we have to make it feel heavenly. How do we make it feel heavenly? Well, what's heaven like? Heaven is a place of peace. If our bodies are peaceful, then the neshama says, I could stay here for 120 years. I feel at home. That's why why b'me'arachta yamim I never got angry. Why b'me'arachta yamim? Because I'm a man of peace. I stay away from machlokes. The neshama says, when the person is an ish mariva, the neshama says, get me out of here. I can't take it. We know that every day we say in the Brias Ha'olam, every day the Torah says Ki Tov. It's good. Except on the second day. It doesn't say Ki Tov. Because Machlokes was created on the second day. So Hashem separated the upper waters and the lower waters. So since there was a division, it doesn't say Ki Tov, because also it says doesn't say Ki Tov because Gehenna was created on the second day. Gehenna was created specifically for Machlokes. But Bereishis Rav Tivyumi says, wow, if the firmament, if the rakia is not Tov, even though it's needed for the Tikkun HaOlam so that the upper waters shouldn't crash down on us, but since it's division, it's not good. Imagine a division fueled by hate. Imagine how terrible it is. Vatiftach ha'oretz es pia, vativ lo isam. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them. The Mayanas HaNetzach says, what's the midah keneged midah of them being swallowed in the ground? I mean, they could have been zapped with fire. Nadav and Avihu, lahavdil, they're great tzaddikim. Fire came out and entered their nose. Why were they swallowed up? So the Mayanas HaNetzach said that Moshe Rabbeinu was anama'id mikol adam. So definitely like Avraham Avinu, anochi afa ve'efer. He considered himself like earth. If Korach said to him, Madua tisnasu al kal Hashem, a man that considers him earth, he's still elevated. So then Hashem says, so you're saying that being earth is elevated, you're going to have to be punished to go below the earth. And therefore he was swallowed alive. The Moshe Zakenim Bali Taisus says a little different. Moshe Zakenim Bali Taisus says that Korach and his colleagues wanted to be above everybody, so Hashem put them below everybody. Interesting difference of opinion. The Shach al Torah, that's not the Shach on Shulchan Aruch, Shach, one of the Gurei Ari, says that Moshe Rabbeinu asked that they be swallowed alive. Why that punishment? That they should go down chayim she'oilel, alive to the pit. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu said, Misa is mechaper al chila Hashem. You know that even suffering and Tshuva and Yom Kippur is not mechaper. Misa is mechaper. He didn't want them to have the kapara. They should go down without death. They shouldn't have the kapara of Misa. That's the way the Shach learns. Shalah Kaddish goes in another direction. He says Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to give them more chance to do tshuva. He said they should be swallowed alive, that they should have more chance to do tshuva. When a person dies, it's too late. And the Ma'ase says, you see that Moshe Rabbeinu was successful because the Bnei Korach, as they were going down, they did tshuva. That's the loving Gadol. That even to the last minute, he's thinking for their benefit. It's an amazing thing what a Torah Gadol is. An amazing thing. Vayerdu heim v'chol asher lahem chayim she'olah. They and all that there belonged to them went down alive to Sheol. Now we know that there's Shiva Madure Gehenna, 7 levels of Gehenna. It's interesting, in the Chok this week we learned in the Zohar that Sheol is the 6th level. The 7th level is something called Avadon. But Rabbeinu Bachya doesn't say that. Rabbeinu Bachya says that Sheol is the Diyuta Tachtaina. Sheol is the bottommost level of Gehenna. And that's reserved for Bali Machlokes. Vayered Chaim Sheol. We see, if a person is thinking, what could be the worst thing that I could do? The very worst. Many things would come to their mind. But the bottom residence, the Diyuta Tachtaina, the worst place in hell, is for Balei Machlokes. And referring to Sheol, it says a very scary thing. Yoshuvu Risham L'Sheola. The wicked will return to Sheol. So it says that they burn and they burn and they burn until there's nothing left. And then the Rabbeinu Shalom makes them anew that they should burn again. That's the meaning of Yeshuvu Risham L'Sheola. They keep on returning. And I was thinking to myself that that's really like the behavior of the Baal Machlokes. Because the Baal Machlokes never wants to put it to bed, you know. No, we can't. We have to, what are we going to give up the cause? No, we got to continue. We can't let this go. We have to teach our children. They're not our type of people. We got to stay away.
It's the principle of the thing.
Machlokes, we just said that it doesn't say Toiv on the second day because there was Machlokes. Machlokes is the opposite of Torah. Because Torah we know is good. It's Toiv, right? Ki lekach Toiv nasati lachem, Torasi al tazayivu. Torah is good. And therefore, Machlokes, which is not good, is the antithesis of Torah. And this makes sense, because the Rambam says, in Hilchos Chanukah, Shekol HaTorah Kula Nitna L'Asa Shalom Ba'olam. Shenema Drachei Darchei Noam, we just learned it in Gittin. Drachei Darchei Noam B'chol Nesivosei Shalom. All the paths of Torah. If a person wants to be considered a Ben Torah, he has to be a person that runs away from Machlokes, like the plague. You have to also understand that Hashem doesn't stay in a place of Machlokes. David HaMelech says, "Va'ani kirvas elikim li tov." For me, being close to Hashem is good. Right? That's Acha Sha'alti Meis Hashem, Oisa Avake, Shifti Beveis Hashem, Kol Yemei Chayai, Lachazois Benoyim Hashem. So, Ani Kirvas Elikim Li Tov. Machlokes, which is not Tov, is not in the presence of Hashem. It's the antithesis of being close to Hashem. That's why there's a very scary really frightening. There's a chazal that says that a shul that is fraught with fighting could be sold to a church. You see churches, if you look at their basement windows, you'll still see stained glass with a Magen David on it. There were shuls that were sold to churches. The neighborhoods changed. And who wanted to buy such a building? The church. But Chazal tell us, the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I can't live in a place of machlokes. It chases away the Shechina. Ani kirvas elikim li taiv, it chases away. It's chased away by something that's not taiv. That's why the bracha that the Mishmar Hayotze, that the division of Kohanim that were leaving on Shabbos said to the Mishmar Haba, the oncoming division, there were 24 divisions, they switched guard on Shabbos, and the outgoing one gave a bracha to the incoming one. So a very interesting bracha. You would think give them a bracha that they should do the avodah right, that they shouldn't make mistakes, there should not be no pigel, no noiser. Misha shikein shmoi babayis hazeh, he who allowed his name to rest in this house, who yishken beinechem, ava shalom v'reis, ava ve'achva shalom v'reis. Love, brotherhood, peace and friendship. That's necessary to have the Shechina. That's why in our Mikdash Ma'at, a mission statement for every shul should be that people should get along. So people leave shul, what do? They wish each other good Shabbos, they say Shalom Aleichem. That's the fuel that keeps a shul vibrant and successful. When that's not there, it's a big problem. And that's why in marriage, it says that a woman is toiv. Matzah isha matzah toiv. Lo toiv eyaisa adam levada. That's why Hashem gave him a wife. If there's fighting, then it's not toiv. Why do you think it says isha kasheira isa ritzayin bala? Because if she's not, if there's going to be fighting, it's not going to be toiv. The same way it says that a husband should be mechabdo yoyse megufay. He should love her more than himself. Oyavay kegufay. Love her like himself. Otherwise, it's not going to be toiv. This is a key. Remember, Rabbi Isai, once you're in the quicksand, it's too late. We have to teach our children, our grandchildren. It's a quicksand. Machlokes is the same letters as Chelek Maves. I'm going to conclude. First of all, I want to remind everybody that we're learning for the good health of Tova Sarah Bas Bela Rezel, for the good health of Aaron ben Sarah, Avigdor Aryeh ben Rivka. If you would like to sponsor a share, we don't have a sponsor for the next week. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. They asked Rav Miller a very simple question. They asked Rav Miller, if the earth opens up and swallows alive Bali Machlokes, then why don't we have sinkholes all the time? We have a lot of fighting. Why don't we have sinkholes opening up in shuls and in workplaces, in homes? Rav Miller says, sadly, it does. Hashem did it dramatically to teach us the lesson that a person exits this world to go to an early grave because of machlokes. We saw it by Korach. We don't see it clearly now. But he says you go to cemeteries and you see many people die young. Many people died because of machlokes. They could have avoided an early exit from this world. That's the power of this week's parsha. As always, I want to thank all of you for joining us and wish you a good night and a good Shabbos.